You need to trust me. You need to trust that when I say no, I have a good reason. I may or may not share that reason with you, but there is one. And I am always looking out for your best interest. Welcome back to the Altered Call YouTube page. And happy belated Father's Day. If you are a dad, know that you are very important to the lives of your children. If you are the type of dad that actually intentionally pours into your kids and takes fathering very seriously, know that you are a superhero. Know that you are everything that this world needs and that you are part of the solution. So thank you. Keep going. It's very hard. It's a lot of work. Please keep doing it. Please keep pouring into your kids. Please keep teaching them the very best things that you know. And if you're not quite there yet, or you're not sure, just get started. Just do it. Pour into your kids. There is nothing better that you can do with your time and energy. Pay attention to them, figure out what they need, and let's get after it. So, this episode in the podcast, kind of random, didn't plan this, but it is in fact on parenting. It's on the stability of the home. So this comes down to both the physical space that you operate in and the routines and processes that you find yourself in on a regular basis. And basically what I'm calling you to do in this episode is just to pay attention to those processes and how they are impacting your family. It's very tempting to say, we're just doing this, everything's kind of fine, let's just keep doing the thing. But if you don't audit it periodically, if you don't look for pressure points of stress, things that cause your family to fight and argue, I gave the example of going to soccer practice, if that causes you guys to fight, or going to church, if that results in a screaming match every week. If there's some sort of predictability to the arguments and the types of conflicts that you guys are having, that's probably a systemic issue. That's not something that just comes up on its own. So you have the power as the leader of your household to pay attention to those things. And this episode is just calling you to paying attention to that degree. Pay attention to your family, pay attention to their needs, pay attention to how they're doing. We tend to get obsessed with the idea of providing for everyone's physical needs and kind of ignore just the flow of things. Just how is everyone doing emotionally? How is everyone relating to each other? How are we doing in this particular season, whether it be a season of joy and relaxation or a season of challenge? So if you can pay attention to those things, if you can kind of help your family and particularly your kids navigate through them, you have a really good opportunity to step up in your leadership and to really imbue skills into your family that they will need going forward. So I started with talking about boredom and how I think that devices are being used to address the symptoms of the problems instead of just addressing the problems themselves. And I'll spend a little bit of extra time with that here because I do think it's something that a lot of people are going to when they really shouldn't. There aren't a lot of things that I'm going to say you should or shouldn't do, but allowing your kids to be addicted to screens really is one of those things. Now, I grew up on video games. I love video games. I could talk for hours about the benefits, particularly in my life, that video games have had. So I'm not against screens at all. But what I'm against is kind of a short-term versus a long-term mindset. So a short-term mindset says, my kid's bored, I need to give them something so that they're not bored. A long-term mindset says, my kid's bored, I need to equip them with a skill so that in the future they can handle this on their own, right? So if your kid comes to you and says, I'm bored, you hand them a device and say, go have fun, this will entertain you. That's outsourcing the problem. Instead of saying, okay, let me spend a little bit of time, let me show you some options, some things around the house that you can play with, some art projects that you can do, whatever the answer might be. Instead of equipping them with a skill that they can take with them into the future, you're outsourcing the problem. You're saying, here's a device. This will solve the problem for you. And when you do that, you kind of lock them into the device. They say, oh, this thing solves my problems. And whenever I tell mom or dad that I'm bored, they'll hand me the device. It becomes a crutch for them. Now, I'm not saying that a screen can't be part of the solution. But if you just hand them a screen, they will take it and they will have a preference towards that. The screens are powerful enough that they will always say, this is the thing that I want. And so in my house, we decided that screens will be a last resort. We're not going to say we can't have them. And sometimes we will offer them in a proactive way. But if my kid comes to me and says, I'm bored, I say, I don't care. Go figure it out. Find something to play. There's stuff to do all around this house. But that's because I've equipped them with the skills to go figure that out. If I just say, I don't know, figure it out, and they've never had to interact with boredom in that way, they don't have the skills to do it. So yes, the long-term mindset on the front end is a higher cost. You do actually have to spend some time teaching skills. You have to show them how to scan the house and find something fun to do. You have to direct them towards a sibling and say, I don't know, go play with your sister. That'll be fun. So on the front end, addressing the symptoms is easier. It's easier to have a short-term mindset and just say, here's a device, go away. If you have a long-term focus, if you can say, here's a skill, here's how you actually solve this problem on your own, then a device can be part of that solution and the device can be a healthy interaction. But if that's the only way that they know how to solve their problems, you're taking that skill away from them. You're denying them the opportunity to grow in a way where they can address this problem on their own. So one of the things that we're doing in my house this summer, last year really, we started homeschooling. So now that we're into the summer, we have no obligations at all. And we've just decided that we're going to do Project Boredom. We are going to spend multiple hours a day where my kids are bored. And I'm just not going to offer a solution. Now, if they want some help figuring out kind of what to play with, what to do to entertain themselves, that's fine. But I'm not going to give them a device. I'm not going to say, here, go watch TV, go watch a movie, whatever. I'm going to say, figure it out. You've got the whole house to play in. You can basically make any mess you want. I don't care, but I'm not going to solve this for you. I'm going to force you to engage with those skills. Now, if I need to come alongside and help with that, great. But half hour to an hour in the morning, half hour to hour in the evening, you're going to have to figure it out on your own. And then we're doing quiet time as well, which is just 2 hours. Go to your room, 2 hours. Now, our 4-year-old lays down, usually takes a nap. The 7-year-old, he's just on his own. You are going to be in that room. If you want to take some stuff with you so that you have stuff to do, great. But you're going to be in there for 2 hours. I am going to do precisely nothing for you. Not because I don't like you, but because you need to learn how to do this. And so Project Boredom, they are bored all the time, all day, and they are having a great time because they figured out how to play with each other. They figured out how to read books. They figured out how to listen to audiobooks on, they've got these little books that you can just listen to the book itself and find a way to get through the process, to build Legos, my son is obsessed with building machines now, which is basically just taking all the furniture and rearranging it and pretending that it does something impressive. So that's what we're doing. Now, another part of this that I wish I had gotten into a little bit more detail in the podcast episode is the ability to bring order to your family. And the benefit of order versus chaos is it allows you to assess the outcomes a little bit easier. So if there are consistent expectations for your family, and consistent feedback to go with those expectations, then you have the ability to assess the outcomes. Like, are the outcomes that we expect coming from this process? Like, the process is the regular routine function of your family, and the outcome is whatever comes out the other side. Do we like what's coming out the other side? So when there's a bunch of chaos in the system, it's really hard to look at the output and go, well, that might not be our fault. It might just be we're in a weird season, or because school's intense right now, or whatever. When you bring order to the system and you control the variables to the extent that you can, or to the extent that it's reasonable, then it's a lot easier to judge the outputs of the system. You can say, okay, we've been consistent. We've got a consistent schedule. We're doing consistent things. How is everyone doing? Are my kids joyful? Are we relaxed? Are we relating to each other? If not, if you have a stable system and that's not what's happening, then you really need to look at what you're doing. You really need to look at what you're doing and say, okay, somehow the system that we have created is creating results that we don't like. And now that all the chaos is out of there, now that this machine is doing the thing that it's intended to do, we can look at the results and go, okay, we're doing great. We are actually good parents. We are getting the results that we think we want from this thing. Or you get to look around and go, oh gosh, we need to change some stuff, because if this is the output from the process that we have created, and it's not just all variable, then this is the outcome that we deserve. And this is not the outcome that we want. So now we need to change it. So a really powerful way to do this is to set clear expectations and then provide a lot of feedback, particularly for your kids. Lots and lots and lots of feedback. Now, I think that married couples struggle with this too. So your spouse also requires feedback, but maybe not as much. When it comes to kids, so my son lately has just been losing his mind every time that I tell him no. Like, he'll ask a question, I'll say no, or I'll say not now, whatever the case may be, and he'll just start throwing a fit. So I've been working with him on, okay, this is not the way that we do things. You need to trust me. You need to trust that when I say no, I have a good reason. I may or may not share that reason with you, but there is one. And I am always looking out for your best interest, both in the short term and the long term. And so lately, I've been telling him no, and his response has been, okay. So I set the expectation. I gave him the skills necessary to trust me. I explained my methodology and what I do and how I do it and why I do it enough that now he can just say, okay, and trust me. Now, I have an option here. I have the option to just say, okay, everything's working the way that it's intended, or I can reward the good behavior. So now when he says, okay, I say, Stephen, thank you for trusting me. Thank you. It is amazing that you have accepted the fact that I am leading you and that you can trust that. You know that your needs will be provided for. It's fantastic. But if I just ignore that, if I don't give him the positive feedback to go with the negative feedback that I was giving him before, he's not going to submit to that transition. If I'm only giving him the negative feedback over here and never the positive over here, he'll never know that he made it from point A to point B. And so he won't be sure if he's doing the thing that he's supposed to do. So you need to start with the negative feedback, then the expectation, then the positive feedback on the other side, so that they know they're doing the thing that they're meant to be doing. So when you can organize your house in this way, when you take the time to actually impose a structure that serves everyone, the other thing that you're teaching them is how to submit to a righteous authority, right? If they are in submission to you because you're leading the household, ultimately you are responsible for how everything goes. And you can take care of them such that they can trust in that. So they can look to dad and say, I don't know what's going on, but dad has this figured out. Then what you are subtly teaching them is how to trust God when they grow up. You can say, look, dad took care of you. You didn't always understand what was going on, but I did. I had a plan the whole time, and look, the plan worked. We went from point A to point B to point C. Here we are. This was the plan. Now, I messed up a little bit along the way. Not everything was perfect, but you trusted in me. I led you. We're in a better place. And when they see that experientially, when they grow up under the wings of a dad who can take care of them, then they are in a really good place as an adult to say, you know what? I can trust in this God guy. He's there. He's bigger than me. He's got a plan that I don't understand because I'm an idiot. I'm willing and able to submit to that because I have experience submitting to something bigger than myself. And so I think that that is the greatest thing that men have the opportunity to bring to their family, is the experience of submitting to righteous authority, so that when kids grow up, they don't have to just figure it out. They can say, no, I've done a little bit of this. Now, it's going to get harder because God's a little bit more abstract. I have a lot less information on what's going on, but I've got some experience. I've done the training wheels part of riding the bike, and now I'm a little bit better equipped to go into the next stage. So, fathers, that is the blessing that you have the opportunity to bring to your family. And I hope that you can find the way to do it. And if you need any help, reach out. This is the thing that I am most passionate about in my own life, is taking care of my family, raising my kids. One of the reasons that I do this for as little time and energy as I do is because that comes first. I'm going to raise my kids first. This will always be second to that. This is a passion that I have. This is something that I put a lot of time and energy into. But if the two ever clash, I'm going to choose my family. Just let everybody know. That's what's happening. So, if you have any questions, reach out. I'd love to help. Next week, we're going to take a little break from the normal structure. And what we're going to do is we had a previous section on talking to God, listening to God's voice. And I'm going to bring a real world example of God stepping into my life, telling me that something needs to be done, how I wrestled through figuring out what he was talking about, and then how I eventually responded to it. And in real time, because I wrote this episode last week when I basically started kind of the final steps into the process. So next week, I'll give you guys an update on where I'm at. And so far, things are going very well. So that's exciting. I'm excited to give that update. I would love your feedback on whether or not you find that episode helpful once it's out, because it's going to be a very different style of episode, and I'm curious to see if it's helpful or not. So let me know. Until then, thank you very much. Put down your phone. Go live some life.